I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to give you an update on what's going on at the Randall's Island shelter in New York City, because yet again we have another stabbing, yet again we have another brawl, and yet again we are highlighting the fact that it is very likely that these are gang members involved in this stabbing, involved in these brawls, and they're being subsidized, sheltered, fed, and cared for by the American taxpayer, by the New York City taxpayer, and it's absolutely disgusting. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, thank you to everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
A melee erupting on Randall's Island overnight at the migrant shelter there. The fight ending with a person stabbed.
So we have covered the Randall's Island shelter multiple times on this channel, and guess what? None of it has been good. And for those of you who are unaware, this is an island that is between Queens and Manhattan. It used to be a favored destination place for quick day trips for many a New Yorker, and it also is a place where I have accidentally ended up due to the fact that I missed a sign, jumped on that stupid highway, ended up getting told to be there, and then I get told to leave. So yeah, I absolutely hate the tolls on Randall's Island. I already had many problems with it, but now it is the home to one of the most notorious migrant shelters in the city of New York. This one tends to skew disproportionately male, just like the migrants that have infiltrated the United States of America, and over again, what we see is violent instance after violent instance, and then complaints from the migrants at this shelter that it's not good enough for them. They demand more stuff, they want security, they want police to be out of there, and honestly, it's pretty disgusting when you think about it, because all this is being subsidized by the taxpayer. In fact, I remember we covered 2 stabbings in 1 month, and in one of those particular stories, the word on the street, or what was initially being reported, was that it was actually a security guard that was behind this, and we reserved judgment, we waited for the facts to come out, even though I said that that might be a preposterous notion. And guess what? It turned out to be. So not only do we have these people there that are creating all sorts of problems, that are rioting and throwing stuff at the police because they demand more benefits, more perks, not only do we have potentially rival gangs there, but we also have a group of liars who end up smearing police officers who are trying to restore some law and order to this absolutely lawless place.
Arthur, good evening. According to the NYPD, a male migrant was stabbed in the shoulder and taken to a nearby hospital. There's a police presence here on Randall's Island today. Yesterday, a lot of cops responded. Chaos and a heavy police presence at the migrant shelter on Randall's Island. Just before 8 p.m. on Friday, the NYPD responded to a call. Detectives say it started as a fight and escalated to a stabbing. A 25-year-old male victim was taken to a hospital and 2 men were taken into custody.
So one of the things that annoys me about coverage of the migrant crisis is word choice, is what is being said by the local media. And in a lot of articles about this particular incident, what you will find is something that we see quite commonly in the United States of America whenever the media doesn't want to actually give you a real assessment of the level of criminality of these certain places. Now, in the next video that I release on this channel, I will talk about a notorious Venezuelan prison gang that arrived in New York City and has been present since 2022 because Joe Biden is letting them in, saying that they're asylum seekers. But here, a lot of the reports say dispute between 2 groups. 2 groups were having a dispute at this migrant shelter, and I want it to be clear to everyone out there in the audience that what we are likely talking about, what we're likely looking at, is gang violence. And the people who are likely to know that we're talking about gang violence are the media who got information from the police but are choosing selectively what to highlight and what to ignore. So right now, this could be connected to a later video that I'm going to release on this channel about these gangs infiltrating this country. But just so you know, right under our noses, we're having stabbings, yet another one at this Randall's Island shelter, and we're not here hearing about deportations as the solution. I got a crazy idea. If you want to claim asylum, you want to say, oh, please, the United States of America, help me. We definitely need assistance from you. We're totally not economic migrants, even though we blitzed through like 6 countries in order to get here because it's the best opportunity for us economically. And you get into a stabbing, you get into one of these brawls, you're out of here. You're gone tomorrow. You should have never been admitted into the country in the first place. We should have had remained in Mexico, which I've said time and time again was the smartest policy ever instituted by the Trump administration, held up. And you know what? I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of these reports. I'm sick of these stories. And I'm sick of all these officers having to rush in and deal with these people right here while we're short on police for the NYPD, for the city as a whole, and average everyday citizens had their wait times go up.
Detectives say it started as a fight and escalated to a stabbing. A 25-year-old male victim was taken to a hospital and 2 men were taken into custody.
So first of all, I just want to point out for everyone in the audience that this migrant shelter, this humanitarian aid center, looks a lot like, based on the fencing, a prison. And this is one of the issues that we have, is that we have to supposedly provide all of these benefits and perks for these people because they said the magic words at the border. They said that they were claiming asylum, but we know how dangerous these situations can be, so we have to kind of separate them off from the broader community, treat them as if they're prisoners. A lot of these places have curfews instituted, and this is because we know for a fact, or at least the people on the ground know for a fact, that there are disproportionately high numbers of criminals here. And again, they're going to cut to a guy and he's going to conduct an interview and he's going to talk about what went down. And I want to point out what you're not hearing. I'm going to tell you about the translation and all of that, but just focus on what is not being said, the word choice.
A lot of people on one side, and then on the other side, people, they were running, says this man, a migrant from Ecuador who lives at the shelter.
So this guy that they interview, who by the way is from Ecuador, again, claiming asylum from Ecuador when you pass all these different various countries along the way that you could have claimed asylum in. And by the way, there is a very tumultuous political situation in Ecuador, to be 100% fair to him. But he's talking about how there are migrants on one side and another group of migrants on another side. And this led to a brawl. This led to an altercation, and it was absolute chaos in this particular shelter. Again, we're discussing groups of migrants who have grouped up. Maybe they're wearing similar colors, maybe they're throwing similar signs, and they're fighting against each other in the shelters, and this is something that has been a major concern for people, especially the normal people, the non-gang affiliated people who end up at these different various locations. We've heard these reports over and over again, but here we have the media soft-pedaling what's going on, kind of whispering about groups here and there instead of discussing the fact that this is very likely gang activity. And again, I will point out that in order to get into a bunch of different various places as a citizen, you have to go through some kind of screening, some kind of security, some kind of check for weapons. Yet we see time and time again in this shelter in particular that we have knives, we have stabbings, we have all these different issues, but nothing appears to be done about it. Again, if you're a citizen, you can't go into certain places without going through a metal detector, and even though they said they were going to do this right here for the migrants, that appears to not be happening. I mean, we've heard months and months of reports about how gun detectors, weapons detectors, National Guard, and all of these different things are going to be installed in the New York City subway system in order to detect weapons and arrest criminals who are taking the train, actually going to work, but staying at this Randall's Island shelter? No big deal. Stab whoever you want, the police will sort it out afterwards, and hopefully there isn't a riot at the shelter again like the last time somebody needed to be arrested.
What happened yesterday is very bad for us, he says, adding, not just a problem with us, but the help they are giving us. From one moment to another, they could cut it.
So this guy's upset and annoyed because he thinks that the help, the aid, the taxpayer-funded giveaways that they're getting could be cut off. If only the American citizen were so lucky, if only the American citizen actually had the option of whether or not to remove aid from these people when they start engaging in criminal gang activity at these shelters, but I hate to say it, for the citizen, for the taxpayer, that is likely not to be the case. But good news for him, he will not lose a single dollar. He will not lose a single benefit. Only the American people are to suffer for this, and of course the people who are being victimized in the shelter system. And remember, never forget, the reason why this is happening is because President Joe Biden, and he said this during the campaign, wanted these people to surge to the border.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
They ended Remain in Mexico. They said it was evil white racism. And when you pointed out that there was a lot of people that were committing asylum fraud, these people were clearly and obviously economic migrants, and Remain in Mexico was a great way to sort that out. They said, shut up, you evil white racists, with your evil white racism.
He says. The NYPD arrested 19-year-old Josue de Leon and 27-year-old Musises de Leon. Both of them live at the shelter, and police have not said if they're related, as they both have the same last name.
So first of all, you see the perp walk of one of these individuals. I do want to point out that it's alleged right now, innocent until proven guilty. We all understand that, but as you can see, this individual, by the look, could be somebody at age 19 that is affiliated with a gang. But one of the things that I find interesting, and probably low-key one of the most interesting parts about this whole story, is what they said right there. And again, it might have just slipped by you. It might have been something that you guys weren't really on top of when you heard about it. But I think it's absolutely crucial because it gives you a peek into the process that maybe, just maybe, shows you how bad our system is without even raising an eyebrow to the untrained ear. Let me play it again, and you tell me in the comments if you pick up what they're putting down.
And police have not said if they're related, as they both have the same last name.
So to be clear, two people can have the same exact last name and not be related. I know a lot of Koreans. There are a lot of Kims in there, and most of them are not related to each other unless there is a vast Kim conspiracy. But you know what would be interesting? If people who entered the United States of America, let's say they claimed asylum, actually had a significant vetting process where we knew not only who they were, but who their relatives were, so that when there was an arrest or something like this with both of them involved, we would be able to know right away whether or not they were related, right away whether or not they were cousins or brothers or whatever, instead of the NYPD not being able to give that information to the media at this moment in time. Isn't that a bit weird that these people who should have entered the United States of America with passports, should have entered the United States of America with some level of documentation, we don't know that information about them. We haven't vetted them to that extent. They're involved in this criminal activity together, and we don't know as of right now the relationship between the two individuals. Is that not a bit odd? Is that not a bit curious? Is that not a bit troublesome, considering Biden is claiming that we do vet these people, and honestly, they're not committing all these crimes that you're worried about? Pay attention to something else rather than look at this square in the face. The fact of the matter is, one of the things that we see at the border time and time again is that these people know that the United States of America does not enforce their own immigration laws properly, dump their documents before going to the United States border. And the reason why they do that is because there's no consequences for that. One of the things that I would do is that if you arrive at the southern border and you have discarded your documents, you have no paperwork with you, even though clearly and obviously you would have had to use that to go through the 6 countries to get into Mexico, then you are not allowed to enter the United States. I would make that an automatic denial. Period, point blank. You cannot wait here. Go pick up your passport for wherever you buried it, or more crucially, apply for asylum in Mexico without any kind of documentation, and we'll examine what's going on maybe afterwards. Again, Remain in Mexico, good policy to actually have an effect. The fact of the matter is, the American people deserve transparency. First of all, we deserve to be able to assess people and decide who gets to come into the United States of America and join our population, who gets to benefit from the largesse of our various welfare systems and all of that, but a bare minimum is that you don't make it difficult and then get rewarded for doing so.
As for the victim, police say he was stabbed in the shoulder and the injuries are non-life threatening.
Now the segment wraps up by them saying we don't have any word from the NYPD on what consequences these people will face, and honestly, who the hell knows? Maybe they're going to be already released back on the welfare system with an apology from the New York State government, because how dare you arrest innocent angel migrants who were just fighting and beefing and possibly engaging in a gang war at the migrant shelter to feed their starving family. Maybe, just maybe, that's what's going to be up with the situation, but I'll tell you what the consequences should be. Deportation. Leave the country immediately. I'm so sick and tired of ICE putting out these detainers for these suspects and New York and other left-wing places going out of their way to release them early. There was a story, and I might do a whole separate video on it, of migrants in Haiti, or migrants from Haiti in Massachusetts, who were arrested for the rape of a 15-year-old girl. Brutal, violent crime. ICE put a detainer on them, and guess what? $500 bond, they were gone. For felony sexual assault of a minor, they were just released, and now these people are in the wind. They're somewhere in our country looking for young women across our nation without any consequences or monitoring or anything like that, and I'm tired of these stories. You commit a crime, you brawl while you're under the subject of the welfare system of the United States of America, you're gone. Right away. No excuses. That's what it should be. But guess what? That's not what it is. That's not how it's ever going to be unless we see significant political change. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a brawl at Randall's Island. Till next time.